you don't know where to begin, better ask Win.
Shane, so good to see you. Today, we're going to start with an important question. Is a trust a must? What every family should know about estate planning. When it comes to estate planning, trusts often sound complex or unnecessary, but depending on your assets and goals, a trust can be a powerful tool. So let's start big picture. What is a trust?
Well, trust is like this. I take this example from the attorneys that we worked with. This is how they describe it. Think of it as a wooden box. And the attorneys are the carpenters. They hammer this wooden box together. And the idea is that you put all of your assets, all of your things inside of this wooden box. Now, when you pass away, that box simply transfers on to the next generation, the person of your choosing. And that's how things move along. It's very simple to think about it that way. And that's the idea, to move the assets along very simply.
Mm-hmm. And so when does a trust make sense, and who might be better off without one?
Well, I think it usually makes the most sense for those of us that own real estate, because when you have real estate that gets caught up in probate, it can be a very expensive process, tens of thousands of dollars, potentially months and months of legal proceedings, and it can get really messy for the family down the road who has to deal with all that. Now, if you don't have real estate, if you don't have a ton of other assets or possessions, maybe just a simple will is enough, but usually real estate and some assets, we want to recommend you get a trust in place to have the maximum protection and control over those assets.
Mm-hmm. And what are the biggest advantages of using a trust, especially when it comes to probate, which a lot of people think is a dirty word, probate, privacy, and control?
Well, it is kind of a dirty word because it's a very exposing, lengthy, and often costly process.
Right.
And what probate basically is the courts authenticating the will, or if there is no will, basically going through the documents, the assets, and saying, here's all this stuff, here's where we think it should go. Anyone object to that? And that opens the door for tons of people to raise their hands. And unfortunately, down there in the probate courts, sometimes it happens where, there's unscrupulous people that try to interfere with this process. And a trust helps you totally avoid that, have complete control of how you transfer the assets, and keep it totally private so no one has to know about it.
And what are the downsides or common misconceptions about trust that people should understand before setting one up?
Well, oftentimes I think people think I'm not rich enough to have a trust,
Right.
or I'm not, big time enough to have a trust. And that's simply really not the case, because if you have real estate, like I said, it's really, really important that you transfer those assets without any sort of probate. Now, people also think, hey, it's going to be way too expensive to get a trust put together. Again, not really the case. If it's a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 at most to get a trust put together, that might save the family months and months of time and tens of thousands of dollars in probate fees. A lot of times you have to get lawyers involved, and that's a really big deal as well. Lastly, people also think that these trusts are sometimes for tax avoidance purposes. That's not the case. It's a wealth transfer and asset transfer tool.
And even with a solid estate plan or trust, why are beneficiary designations so important, and how often should they be revisited?
Well, you want to revisit them at least annually, I recommend. And now they're important because there's a couple ways you can set it up. A lot of times you can put your trust as the beneficiary of an account. And that way, if you pass away, the assets flow into the trust and the trust then disperses it. But you can also still, even if you have a trust, list individuals as beneficiaries on your accounts. And those accounts would transfer straight to the beneficiaries and actually kind of bypass the trust. And that's a very simple way to do it as well. So you want to just make sure those are structured correctly as part of your plan.
It's nice to talk this through with you, Shane. I know you always prioritize family legacy planning, and this is such an important component. If somebody wants to sit down with you and determine if a trust makes sense for them, what's the right way to reach you?
Best way to reach us is online or via phone. Our website here at the office is winstonandcompanies.com, or call us here directly, 602-456-1928.
Great. Shane, thank you so much.
Thanks, Erin.
Got a plan for your retirement, 'cause you know it's just down the road. But if you don't know where to begin, better ask Win.